Welcome to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Many women are entrepreneurs and are focused on building their company and making it successful. But one of the key aspects of running a business is social media. It used to be an afterthought and something that the kids go on, but you truly need a social media presence to reach your proper audience. Not only is your content important, but what about colors and images that you use? Today, I'm joined by Kira Hart, Vice President of Financial Services at Kaiser & Partners, and we're discussing social media for small businesses. Kira, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I'm really excited about this because, a lot of people focus on building their business and really don't focus on, social media. It's always an afterthought. But what is the goal that you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, so it really depends on your business goals. So if you're looking to grow your business, social media is a fantastic way to reach new audiences, but it can also be used to educate your current clients or customers. So it depends on what you're trying to achieve as a brand, but social media can help you achieve all of those goals.
So who are you trying to reach then?
So it depends on who your service or product is for. So if there's specific industries that would make sense for social media, you can find ways to target those. But if you're just looking for the general public, then you can try all different platforms to target all different types of audiences. So it's really about understanding who you've developed your product or service for, and then finding the right social media platforms to reach those audiences.
I've often talked to people and they say, well, I don't have a tangible product. Like you look at financial services or you look at somebody who does some sort of another service. And typically if you have a product, you can put a coupon out there to try to entice people to get the coupon and buy your product. But what do you do if you don't have a tangible product or something that encompasses your business?
Right. So in that situation, we talk a lot about thought leadership. So if you're an individual that's in a certain sector or industry and you're looking to get a little more awareness of yourself or your brand, then you can do that by becoming a thought leader. So you might want to comment on industry trends, kind of like you do on this show. You might want to talk about topics that are relevant for a lot of people and build your presence that way. So it's about becoming relatable and choosing certain topics relevant to your industry or sector that will really help people trust you as a thought leader. That's a great way to build your brand, even if you're not selling a specific product.
Okay, well, that's good. So let's talk about different social media sites. Which ones are best for somebody's business?
So it depends on who you're trying to reach. So I would say something like TikTok is extremely popular for a bit of a younger generation. They love video content. They love creating content. They love connecting through types of videos. However, if you're operating in, say, the financial space and your target is insurance or financial professionals, you might do better on a LinkedIn because you're looking for more of a business community and you're trying to talk more business to business. And a lot of people think of LinkedIn as a professional network where they can do that. So you can leverage all different platforms depending on the different audiences you're trying to reach, but you would adjust the content based on the demographics, the age, whoever you feel you're trying to reach with your product or service.
It's interesting that you talk about LinkedIn. I was scrolling through one day and somebody had put down some sort of a political thought.
Right.
And people went right in and said, this is not a business thought. This is not for LinkedIn. Go to Facebook. Right. So people get very protective of certain social media sites that they are on a regular basis.
Absolutely. I think we start to associate social media sites with certain functions. So in that situation, if you're going to LinkedIn for business information and news updates, it can be a little bit surprising when you see something polarizing. So I do think you're right. People do go to certain platforms for certain things. Instagram, we go to for photos. So it might surprise us if we see something that is not relevant to what we normally search for. But yeah, LinkedIn especially, I think people still view as a business platform and they like to go there for professional relationships, news, economic updates, and things of that nature.
So when we come back, I want to talk to you about times for posting.
Right.
Pre-COVID, there were specific times. During COVID, I don't know if there were any times.
Yep.
Maybe now there are more specific times. So please don't go away. We'll be right back with more social media for a small business? Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today we're discussing social media for small businesses. Now, Kira, before we went to break, we were talking about the best time to post. Is there a best time?
Yeah, so it's interesting because you said before COVID, there used to be a belief that one of the best times to post was actually before or after the workday, because a lot of people would be sitting on the train and they might be reading their phones looking for content. So as you alluded to, that changed. A lot of people are working from home or were working from home. So what we usually recommend to businesses is to actually test and learn. So what you can do is, if you are either using a social media tool to post content, or if you're doing it on your own, you should measure your engagement when you post at different times, because that will allow you to see how your brand is fitting into the space, because it will be very different for someone in the financial space versus someone in the consumer space, because people look for different types of news at different times of the day. So I think it's really important to test and learn and spend a bit of time understanding what's working and what's not, and adjusting your approach based on that.
But that also, I mean, if you look at that, it also alludes to who your client is.
Yes. Yeah. So it's really about who you're trying to reach. As we chatted about a little bit earlier, you have to think about your audience. So it's not about posting when it's good for you, oh, the workday's over, I'm going to get on social media. But what if your client is someone that prefers to look in the morning? So there are a lot of tools out there that you can pre-schedule content. So I highly recommend trying it that way, so that you can kind of get ahead of the next day, try a few different times, really try to see when your audience is active, and that will really help you increase your engagement.
So my next question is twofold. I want to talk about best practices for answering comments.
Yes.
Now, question number one, do you answer to every comment? And if there's a negative comment, do you ignore it? Do you engage? Do you walk away?
Right. So I think in general, especially if you're trying to build your brand, it's important to answer comments. It shows that you're actively monitoring your social media. There are a lot of people out there that will post something and then not look at it, and you go back later and there's 10 comments. That's an opportunity for engagement. So if those comments were made at different times, different days, you can be constantly engaging with people and growing your audience. So I do recommend answering comments when you can, when it's appropriate, because it does help continue to increase your engagement on that platform. If there are negative comments, it can actually be an opportunity to turn it around. So if there is a complaint, for example, that's your opportunity to fix it. So you can ask the person to take the conversation offline, for example. You don't want to have a huge comment stream where you're going back and forth on something, but you can say, I'm so sorry to hear that. Can you contact me via this avenue, whatever's appropriate? And that's a great way to start a conversation and fix a problem, as opposed to others seeing the comment go unanswered.
Now, there are other people that have become professional negative commenters.
Yes.
I've always thought, you know what, don't engage with them, because this is what they want. They want to fight. They want engagement. So how do you deal with that?
Yes. So if there's a situation where you're getting continuous negative comments, there may be an opportunity to maybe block that person. If this person is attacking your brand or your personal social media channels, and they're doing it for fun at that point, then I think it's okay to block that individual, because at that point you're not helping to build your brand by engaging with them. You're only engaging with them to build up their own brand, because they are looking for engagement, for people to look at them. So I think that would be the one situation where it would be appropriate to take the precautions to protect your brand.
And you know what? I think that's important, because a lot of people can be very mean because they hide behind their phone, their computer, or whatever.
Yes.
And, we don't need that. So yes, if they're being mean to you and whatever, block them. I have no problem with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, people talk about their time being limited. Is there a way to plan post content? Because we were talking about, people going to the office or after work. Can we plan content in advance?
Yep.
When it comes to social media accounts, importance of content in a calendar or whatever?
Yes. I highly recommend pre-planning content. There's a lot of tools out there. There's one called Hootsuite that is actually a free tool. You can use it to pre-plan, schedule your posts. There is a paid version of it that actually has detailed metrics as well. So depending on if you're trying to monitor your posts or if you're just looking to schedule them, that's an example of a platform. There's also one called Social Pilot. So those are two that we commonly recommend. They're relatively low cost. They're great for small businesses. They really help you to set your content up and forget it, especially if it's something that doesn't need to be timely. So for example, on social media, you might want to react to an economic announcement. Unfortunately, you can't pre-plan that because you don't know what the Bank of Canada is going to do.
Right.
But you can complement that reactive commentary with some pre-planned posts that week. So you can do both. You don't have to kind of set it and forget it. You can do both.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back with more branding. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today we're discussing social media for small businesses. Now, I mentioned branding because that's really, really important.
Yes.
In the intro, I talked about color, images. So let's talk about branding. How do you brand your content?
So the most important thing with branding is consistency. So a lot of people like to try different things, but you're actually better off to keep your brand consistent. So think about what you want to do with your brand before you start putting it all over social media. For example, if you have a website and you use a lot of purple because that's a color that you identified with your brand.
That's my color.
Yes. Yeah. And it's something that excites you, you associate with your brand, you would want to carry that color through to your socials. But you wouldn't have, one post that's hot pink, then one that's purple, because when people visit the page, it might be a little bit overwhelming. So consistency is extremely important, not only just in branding, but in how you post. So if you're the kind of person that posts a whole bunch for a month and then you stop posting for an entire month, that confuses people and it can really bring your engagement down. So everything to do with branding and posting is about consistency and continuing those colors, that brand, so that when people visit your page, they see that and they start to associate it with you as a brand.
So let's talk about my Instagram then.
Yeah.
In my color, you can see the color here is purple.
Love it.
I love purple.
Yeah.
Website is purple.
Yep.
So if I'm posting a photo on Instagram,
Yep.
Do I have to put like a purple banner around a photo, or can I just post photos as I usually do?
So you can. So it really depends on your preference. So it's however you prefer to frame your brand. Some of our clients, for example, we will deliver several different templates in the same color scheme. Mm-hmm. So say they have 3 colors they work with, white, purple, and a nice green, and they all go together very well. We might deliver 10 different templates with all different types, and some of them might do something like when we post about our CSR initiative, we use the green. When we post about this activity, we use the purple. So you can make decisions on your brand based on how you want people to remember each piece, but usually you would just want to carry the same colors through. So it's totally fine to still post a photo, but if you see an opportunity to start branding things in a way that people will be like, I love that show, I remember that show, it really does cement your brand in their brain because you have that consistency.
Okay, that's great. So let's talk about mistakes now. What are the most common mistakes that businesses make on social media? Because we all make mistakes.
Absolutely, and we're all learning. Yeah. So extremely normal for small businesses or all businesses to make mistakes on social media. I would say inconsistency is the biggest mistake. And I mean more so with people that start to grow their network and then they kind of say, oh, I'm too busy, and they stop posting altogether. That can really damage what you've built and you've worked so hard. So I highly encourage people, even if you have to use a tool and do some pre-programmed posts, whatever you want to do to make sure you continue to post on your social and be active, that allows you to continue to engage, to continue to build. I think another mistake people make, and it's more of a nice to have, but not having any sort of viewpoint on anything. So if you're constantly just posting content that is general, it can be tough to engage with people. But if you do see a really important announcement about your industry come out and you have an opportunity to say, this is wonderful for the industry, because that's a massive opportunity to start connecting with people that might feel the same way, or even if they have a counterpoint, they're going to want to talk to you about it. So I think not leveraging those moments to share your expertise and your viewpoint is another mistake. People who are, owning these businesses for a reason, they have the expertise to do these things. they should be out there sharing their expertise.
But a lot of people say, it's time. I don't have the
Yes.
time, right?
Yep.
So how can somebody increase their social media presence and expand their network and not buy them?
Yeah. So I would say there's a couple different ways. One way is to outsource. So if you have the budget to hire someone internally or externally to help you a little bit and make suggestions and, take your thoughts and turn them into posts for you, great way to save money. Or if that could fit in.
Save time.
Yeah, save time. Yeah, it would save time.
Yep.
So that would be a great way to save time by just having someone on your staff that's capable of helping with social media, kind of take it off your plate. And it's also a great way to connect with different generations if you're able to have someone on staff that might be a little bit different than you. They might have different viewpoints and you might be able to get even better content. Another way is those social tools we talked about, preloading things. If you have time on a Sunday night because you're not busy at work, you can preload 7 posts if you want to for the next couple of weeks and just make sure they get out there. So preloading or having someone on your team or externally take it off your plate are 2 great ways to approach social media.
That's really good, actually. Now we've got to go to break, but when we come back, I want to talk about influencers.
Yes.
The financial industry has had a little bit of a hard time with influencers. But let's talk about influencers. So please don't go away. We'll be right back with social media for small business. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today we're discussing social media for small businesses. My guest is Kira Hart. She's Vice President of Financial Services at Kaiser & Partners. Kira, influencers. We've seen finfluencers get huge fines because they're not financial experts. They tell you when to get in, but they don't tell you when to get out.
Right.
So people are a little bit tainted on influencers. And I've read that they're not even making as much money as they were before because people were backing away. So what are your thoughts on influencers?
I do think influencers can be a great resource, absolutely. One, because they already have a network that you don't have. So for example, we've worked with mental health influencers who have built a huge audience in that space. That's an opportunity for any organization that wants to talk about mental health to speak to an audience that's already there, that's passionate about that cause.
Mm-hmm.
So there are many situations where influencers are absolutely a great idea. It's about finding the right ones for your brand and within the right price point. So you spoke about cost a little bit. A lot of influencers do expect compensation. They work hard at building the content that they build. So you have to find an influencer that works within your budget, but also aligns with your brand. Because to your point earlier, you wouldn't want to engage an influencer to be giving advice on your behalf because that's not something you may be comfortable with. However, if you had built out key messages for that influencer on a specific service or educational campaign, fantastic way to reach new people. So it's about just being careful. I always encourage our clients to have succinct key messages that they give the influencer. So for example, that mental health client we worked with, they were able to kind of work with the influencer to write a script. They gave key messages. The influencer turned it into a very personal script, and it ended up being an extremely beautiful campaign.
Wonderful.
So you just have to work with the right influencer on the right campaign, and they really can be a fantastic resource.
So let's go back to paying for posts. Is it worth it?
I would say it can be if you are new to platforms and you really want to grow your following. So yes, I would boost post. I would say if you're a small business, don't put a ton of money towards it right away. Even $500 is enough to start boosting.
$500 for a week, a month, a year?
Yeah, even over a month is fine. So if you wanted to test a platform, you could do $500 to start, depending on your brand and where you might reach your audience. You could do Google Ads, you could do ads on LinkedIn. TikTok's a great way. So I think you really just have to think about where am I going to reach my audience and what's the best way to do it. For example, social media contests. We always recommend boosted posts because you may only have a month to get people's eyes on this contest and you want as many people to enter as possible. So we always recommend a little bit of boosting on social media in that situation because you only have a month. So set up your budget for that month, get as many people registered as possible for that contest. So there's definitely situations where boosting your post is well worth it, but I wouldn't spend the entire year boosting if you're not sure what it's getting you. It's about pairing it with campaigns and kind of an end goal and testing and learning along the way.
So If you are a small business, should you pay for your social media or use the free app?
I would start with the free and begin to build your network, and then leverage paid options like boosting specific posts when you feel they would be very relevant to your audience. So you may not want to boost a very general post, but if you do have a brand new launch and you really want to get as many eyes on it as possible, that might be a great time to boost. So really pairing your budget with the right time to use it is really important on social media.
Okay, so last question. We've got less than a minute left. Beyond social media, what are some other ways that a small business can reach their target audiences?
Right. So one thing we were talking about earlier is thought leadership. So if you are an expert in your industry, you've started a business, you know you're good at what you do, you should be sharing that with media as well. So for example, you can write articles and pitch them to different media outlets. You can write blogs for your website, start to generate content that way. And if you do have reactionary commentary, we talked about the Bank of Canada, you could speak with media that cover that. So you can try to get kind of your name out there in different media outlets, and you'll start to become known through those media outlets by brand new audiences as well.
This has been fascinating. Thank you so much, Kira.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Kira says social media plays an important role in how your business and your profile is perceived by current and future clients and customers. So asking the right questions and structuring your social media in a way that reaches the right audiences and delivers the right messages can have a very positive impact on your business. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski, and I'm here to empower you and make frugality fashionable. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon. Bye for now.